Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing about the evolution of watches in this presentation. From the first couple of pocket watches to the Apple Watch, the concept of the watch has clearly come a long way since its beginning stages. In the background are some of the few examples of the watches we will be discussing today. The earliest object of a compact clock goes back to the 1560s to the MS gilt brass tambour cased watch. This is one of the few earliest surviving watches left. It's an exquisite piece of work with plenty of detail. However, the casing of the watch was manufactured and was used in different variations by different watchmakers. It should be noted that many of these watches were available to aristocrats and people of high positions because of the value and prestige that these watches hold. Near the end of the century, pocket watches have now become a tad bit smaller with curved edges. This design was very distinct from the latter watch and offered a more ergonomic design to the user. The designer of this watch, Johannes van Gie, worked exclusively for the King of Spain and made the best design for the king and his family. Fast forward to almost 300 years, we see the first wristwatch. This watch was first targeted towards women, making it a fashion item. This item over time transformed to an object used by the soldiers fighting in the war. This watch, small on one's wrist and easy to wind up for it to continue to work. A new era was approaching at this time. People were still manually winding up their watches every now and then. Lipp and a watchmaker in Chicago called Elgin worked together to develop a new watch, a watch that didn't require winding. Although the Lipp electronic watch did not require for it to be winded, it was not as successful because of its mechanical problems. If it were not for its mechanical problems, the Lipp watch would have been the most successful watch out there. Unlike the Lipp electronic watch, the Hamilton Pulsar did everything the Lipp watch couldn't. It introduced a far more futuristic look, with its digital face. However, the battery-operated watch did come with a price. The Pulsar was manufactured to be used exclusively by the rich and came with a price tag of almost $2,000, a hefty price to pay back in the 70s. Continuing this vision of the future, Seiko in 1982 came out with a TV watch. Seiko at the time was the leading company in the watch industry. As great as it sounds, it was far too bulky and costing up to $700. As we take a small step back, we continue to see many of these watches are focused on catering the upper class. Still, many of these objects are a sign of status and progress. In competition with Seiko watches, Casio came out with a watch where you can now make calculations on your wrist. Seiko previously came out with Data 2000, however, it contained a full keyboard and many users found it unnecessary. This watch became a more functional product and eventually came out with a watch that could control a TV and VCR. It is really interesting to see how watchmakers slowly transitioned to a heavier technology, as seen as the Sinclair FM wristwatch. The design of this radio watch still captured this idea of the future with its aluminum casing. However, this watch never really caught on, and Sinclair Company eventually went out of business. Seiko continued to surprise the world with its continuous technological innovations. The message watch had the capability of gathering weather, lotto numbers, game scores, and messages. All this information was sent to you via FM waves. Seiko was one of the very first companies to bring more information onto the common watch. The Breitling Emergency Watch is the first of its kind. The unique watch contains a distress signal that can be picked up within 90 nautical miles. These watches are specifically built for pilots whenever they are in situations of endangerment. The Breitling watch has successfully helped rescue 2 British pilots after their helicopter crash in Antarctica in 2003. The Lynx watch was not as sleek looking as the Breitling, but it did have as much technological power, or more, than the Breitling watch. The Lynx watch was in a sense the prototype watch of the Apple Watch. It had the capability of receiving emails, messages, traffic reports, and much more. It was a similar concept as to the Seiko watch, but rather than the FM waves, it was connected to the internet. The Fossil Palm Pilot now gave its consumers a personal assistant on their wrist. The Pilot stores contacts, memos, calendars, and contains a touchscreen. This watch became highly successful with people in fast-paced environments such as Wall Street or editorials. In 2004, Microsoft essentially released the same concept as the Seiko message watch, but integrated their own platform. The Microsoft Spot was not that different from the message watch other than the touch LED screen. This once again was a product targeted towards people in business. The Garmin Forerunner was one of the first watches to measure a runner's speed, distance, pace, and the amount of calories burned. Garmin set paths for industries to promote individual trackings of their performance on a watch. As the years progressed, Garmin continued to heighten the bar for others to reach. Nike soon was able to reach the bar and set new standards. The Nike FuelBand had the same capability as the Garmin Forerunner, however, in a more compact and fashionable manner. The FuelBand synced with your smartphone through Bluetooth and created a network where you can compete with your friends as to how much fuel points you have. The FuelBand created a market of competition even when you were just doing your basic runs. The Sony smartwatch was the beginning of what we see today in smartwatches. The Sony Watch was a companion device to the Xperia smartphone and offered a full-color display. You could do many things such as view your Facebook, Twitter, messages, emails, and weather, and do small tasks of these sorts. The downside to this device is that it only connects to the Xperia smartphone and no other. Most of the watches released in the early 2000s are out of most people's reach. The Pebble Watch offers an alternative option. The watch has the capability of hooking up with an iPhone and Android device. This gave both users the flexibility to buy an additional device without feeling compromised. The Pebble is a simple watch with a low market value of $100, making a product perfect for broke, tech-savvy college students. Apple wowed the world once again, this time bringing the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch did much more than its competitors. The watch had the capability to track your steps and your heartbeat. Not only did you have the ability to do the same things as its predecessors, but you can now answer calls on your watch. Of course, all these snazzy features do not come cheap. We have come a long way from when we first began constructing watches. Despite the advances we had made, we do not seem satisfied with the future we now live in. We are waiting for the next best thing, yet we still want more. Lately, people have been looking for elegance when it comes to watches, reason why companies like Michael Kors, Rolex, and Swatches have been rising again, because people seek simpler times, as seen as the first watch in the beginning of the presentation.